The wind cuts through the Siberian forest like a blade. Ancient pines tower overhead, their branches heavy with snow that hasn't melted in months. The ground crunches beneath every step, frozen solid, unforgiving. This is a place where silence reigns, where only the brave or the foolish dare to wander. Somewhere deep in this wilderness, between the twisted roots and shadowed valleys, a story unfolds that will challenge everything you think you know about the wild. A small figure stumbles through the trees. Her name is Anya Petrov, just 8 years old, with dark hair that falls in tangles around her pale face. Her thin jacket is no match for the bitter cold. Her shoes, worn and patched, slip on the icy ground. She clutches a small backpack to her chest, the only thing she has left. Anya is lost, completely and utterly lost. She's been walking for hours, maybe days. Time blurs when you're fighting to survive. How did she end up here? The story begins 3 days earlier in the small village of Verkhny Sergii. Anya lived with her grandmother in a tiny wooden house at the edge of town. Her parents died in a car accident when she was 5, leaving her in the care of the only family she had left. But her grandmother was old, sick, struggling to make ends meet. The local authorities had been visiting, talking about orphanages, about taking Anya away. The little girl heard the whispered conversations through thin walls. She understood enough to be terrified. So when her grandmother fell unconscious one morning, Anya made a choice that would change everything. Instead of calling for help, instead of waiting for the adults who wanted to separate them, she ran. She packed her few belongings into her school backpack, kissed her grandmother's forehead, and slipped out into the early morning darkness. She would find help herself, she decided. She would save them both. But the forest is vast, endless, merciless. Anya walked deeper and deeper, following what she thought were paths, but were really just gaps between trees. The cold seeped through her clothes, through her skin, into her bones. Hunger gnawed at her stomach. The few snacks she'd packed were gone by the second day. Fear crept in, slowly, then all at once. She was alone in one of the harshest places on earth. By the third day, Anya could barely stand. Her lips were blue, her fingers numb. She stumbled more than she walked, catching herself on tree trunks, leaving small handprints in the snow. The sun was setting, painting the forest in shades of gold and crimson. Soon, it would be dark, and the temperature would drop even further. This might be her last sunset. That's when she saw him. A massive brown bear, easily 8 feet tall when standing, with fur like burnished copper and eyes the color of dark honey. His name, if bears had names among themselves, might have been Mikhail. He was old, scarred from countless battles, a survivor in every sense. Bears like him were meant to be in hibernation by now, but something had kept him awake, kept him wandering. Perhaps it was the mild autumn that had stretched too long. Or maybe it was something deeper, something unexplainable. Anya froze when she saw him. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her legs wouldn't obey. She was too weak, too tired, too cold. The bear noticed her immediately. His massive head turned in her direction, and for a moment that felt like an eternity, they stared at each other. This was it, Anya thought. This was how her story would end. But Mikhail didn't charge. He didn't roar. Instead, he did something that defied every law of the wild. He approached slowly, carefully, his great paws making soft impressions in the snow. He stopped just a few feet away from the trembling child. His breath formed clouds in the frigid air. Then, with a gentleness that seemed impossible for such a massive creature, he lay down beside her. Anya's mind couldn't process what was happening. Bears were dangerous. Everyone knew that. They were fierce predators, especially when threatened or surprised. Yet here was this giant, settling into the snow like a living mountain, creating a windbreak with his enormous body. The warmth radiating from his fur was like a furnace in the frozen wilderness. Exhaustion overcame fear. Anya's eyes grew heavy. Without thinking, without choosing, she leaned against the bear's side. His fur was thick, coarse, but warmer than any blanket she'd ever known. Mikhail didn't move away. He didn't growl or snap. He simply lay there, a guardian made of flesh and fur, and something deeper than instinct. Night fell over the Siberian forest. The temperature plummeted to dangerous levels, but curled against the bear's massive form, Anya slept. She dreamed of her grandmother, of warm soup and fairy tales told by candlelight. She dreamed of safety in a world that had shown her little of it. And through it all, Mikhail watched. His eyes never closed completely. His ears twitched at every sound. He had become, without reason or explanation, her protector. Miles away, the search was beginning. Anya's disappearance had been discovered when neighbors noticed her grandmother's collapsed state and the child nowhere to be found. Emergency services were called. Search teams were formed. Helicopters swept the forest canopy. Ground crews followed every possible trail. But the wilderness is vast. The search leader, Captain Viktor Petrov, ironically no relation to Anya despite the shared name, had seen many rescues in his 20 years of service. But children lost in the Siberian wilderness rarely survived more than a day or two. The cold was simply too brutal, the forest too unforgiving. Still, they searched with desperate hope, following faint tracks, calling her name until their voices were raw. Dawn broke on the fourth day, with no sign of the missing girl. The search teams were beginning to lose hope when a helicopter pilot spotted something unusual through his thermal imaging camera. A large heat signature, much larger than a child, but with something smaller pressed close against it. The pilot radioed the ground teams, his voice tight with confusion and disbelief. The rescue team approached on foot, moving carefully through the dense trees. They expected to find a tragedy. Instead, they found a miracle. There, in a small clearing, was the most extraordinary sight any of them had ever witnessed. A massive brown bear lay peacefully in the snow, and curled against his side, fast asleep, was 8-year-old Anya Petrov. The rescuers stopped dead in their tracks. No one moved. No one even breathed. Bears protecting human children existed only in fairy tales, not in real life. Yet here it was, happening before their eyes. The bear's head was raised, alert, watching the approaching humans with calm intelligence. He made no threatening moves, showed no aggression. He simply watched, as though he had been waiting for them to arrive. Captain Petrov made the call. They would approach slowly, carefully, making no sudden movements. The bear's behavior was so unusual, so completely against everything they knew about wildlife, that normal rules didn't seem to apply. Step by step, they moved closer. The bear remained still, protective, but not aggressive. When they were close enough to speak softly, Captain Petrov called Anya's name. The little girl stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She saw the rescuers, saw their uniforms and equipment, and for a moment, looked confused. Then, she looked at Mikhail, and something passed between them. Some wordless communication that the watching humans couldn't understand. Anya sat up slowly, her small hand resting on the bear's thick fur. She wasn't afraid. If anything, she seemed reluctant to leave. The bear turned his great head toward her, and in that moment, the rescuers swore they saw something almost human in his eyes. Recognition, sadness, a goodbye. The extraction was the most delicate operation any of them had ever performed. They needed to get Anya to safety, but they couldn't risk provoking the bear. Slowly, carefully, they coaxed the little girl away from her unlikely guardian. Mikhail watched every movement, but made no attempt to stop them. When Anya was finally in the rescuer's arms, the bear stood, shook the snow from his fur, and with one last look at the child who had slept against his heart, disappeared into the forest. Back at the hospital, Anya was treated for mild hypothermia and malnutrition, but remarkably, she was otherwise unharmed. The doctors called it a miracle. How had she survived 3 nights in temperatures that would kill most adults? When they asked her about the bear, her answer was simple. He kept me warm. He kept me safe. The story spread like wildfire. News crews descended on the small village. Wildlife experts were baffled. Bears don't behave this way, they insisted. There had to be another explanation. But the rescue team's testimony was clear, their thermal images undeniable. Somehow, impossibly, a wild bear had chosen to protect a lost child, rather than see her as prey or threat. Anya recovered fully, and was eventually placed with loving relatives, who welcomed her with open arms. Her grandmother also recovered, and they were reunited, their bond stronger than ever. But Anya never forgot her guardian in the forest. Sometimes, late at night, she would dream of thick fur and gentle eyes, of warmth in the coldest darkness.
Scientists still debate what happened in that Siberian forest. Some say the bear was sick, his behavior altered by disease or injury. Others suggest he had been habituated to humans somehow. But those who were there, who saw the gentleness in those dark eyes, believe something else entirely. They believe that sometimes, in the deepest wilderness, nature reveals a heart that beats with unexpected compassion. Mikhail was never seen again by human eyes. But somewhere in the vast Siberian forest, rangers occasionally find unusual tracks, larger than normal, moving with purpose through the trees, and sometimes, just sometimes, they swear they see a flash of copper fur watching them from the shadows, as though a guardian still roams those ancient woods.
And that's the incredible story of Anya and Mikhail, the little girl and the bear who defied every law of nature to create a bond that saved a life. In a world where we often see only the harsh and brutal side of the wild, sometimes something miraculous breaks through. Sometimes a predator becomes a protector, and the impossible becomes reality. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to believe in miracles. Subscribe for more incredible true stories that will restore your faith in the unexpected. Until next time, remember that even in the darkest wilderness, hope can have fur and a heartbeat.